What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Citizens Gaming Podcast. I'm Tim.
Hey, this is Josh.
And I'm Brenden.
So this is yet again another deployment episode, and this is part 2 Grand Theft Auto. We're just going to jump right into it. So speaking of Grand Theft Auto 5 and Grand Theft Auto 4, and what has now become the bane of my existence, and that's Grand Theft Auto Online, Grand Theft Auto 4 is when they introduced like online multiplayer. It wasn't nearly as in-depth as Grand Theft Auto Online is now. I don't even think there was a free roam, but there were.
No, there was.
Was there free roam?
In 4 there was.
Yeah.
4 had it. Yeah, 4 had it. There was no special cars. It was basically they thrust you and a bunch of other players into just the sandbox of
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember there were like games that you could play, or like because there was like a team deathmatch, and that to
they
me
still
was,
had. That's where they came up with like cops and robbers. That was in GTA 4. And what was the other mode? I had another special mode that like I wouldn't say they invented, quote unquote, but became big because of GTA 4 and they put it in GTA 5.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, they had the typical stuff like deathmatch and races and stuff like that. But yeah, that was definitely where that first itch started. I mean, of what Grand Theft Auto Online could be.
Right. And Grand Theft Auto 4 is actually, from the best of my knowledge and from what research I've seen, is actually where the modding of Grand Theft Auto started, was with Grand Theft Auto 4. They had a mod out called Liberty City Police Department First Responders, and you would play as a cop. The mod was very unstable.
4?
Yep, and 4. This is when it started. The mod, in my opinion, was very unstable. I tried doing it. I did not like it at all. I know a lot of people did play it and really enjoyed it, and that's kind of where LSPDFR, Los Santos Police Department First Responders, got its start, was from LCPDFR.
Yeah.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
I mean, mods have been around for a while,
Eons, but yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely around that time when they definitely started becoming a lot more prevalent. And I mean, also part of that was just, the rise of the internet and home computing and yada yada, and then people who are like hobby developing. Modding was a great way for people to kind of mess around with other people's tools and make something that they could do for fun. And yeah, that definitely started around that time. Is definitely when that started becoming bigger and bigger. Again, as people aged up and maybe started wanting to make video games themselves. I mean, yeah, the mods back then were still fairly simple, at least to a point. But it was definitely when it started exploding. And I mean, especially with the way GTA 4 at the time was still such an open game and had so much to do. It gave you a lot of freedom, made it an easy target for modding because so many of those systems are already there and in place. You just kind of had to create around that.
Right.
And yeah. Tim, was this GTA 5? So you talked how like that cop mod started in 4. Was it GTA 5 when it got traction and then it started the role play community?
Yes. I know like a bunch of, or a couple of YouTubers that I watch, their start came from Grand Theft Auto 4 and the cop mod. And then it transferred over to Grand Theft Auto 5 when it finally came to PC and they created the mod for it. And so when Grand Theft Auto 5 came in and they put the mod on, that's when the role playing of playing as a cop really blew up.
Because I've seen so many cool clips. I would say I've seen more clips than I have streamers of people doing the role play. Like I swear the internet is probably flooded with more of the GTA role playing mods of the cop stuff with like people calling in the codes.
Yep.
That's neat. That's neat as hell.
I used to do it, and I have old YouTube videos from when I did it, and it was a blast. I had a lot of fun doing it. I would do the LSPDFR mod, which I'd mod my single player game, and I would play that, and then I'd also do where I'd play 5M, where I'd get in a server and I'd play in a community, and each had their like own little perks as to like what they brought to the table.
Like you were like it gave you an identity of like what your character does, I guess.
Yeah. So like let's say 5M for example, you could get really in depth with the stories that you told, playing as that person. Like I know people that did, like they really immerse themselves in that role playing, or there was other people that kind of just played out different scenarios just to give law enforcement something to do, which is kind of where more of what I did when I would play it. But what's nice about like these role playing communities is you can go in depth as far as you want. There's not requirements. There's not, hey, you need to create this kind of backstory and you need to have this kind of life for your character. It's like, okay, well, you can do as much as you want, or you can do as little as you want, and still have a blast, have a great time.
That sounds so cool, honestly.
Yeah.
A part of that actually grew out of a lot of people started doing these kind of made up challenges within Grand Theft Auto. I know I did a couple of them back in the day. The hardest one is definitely by doing law-abiding citizen, which is where you try to follow the law, i.e., you can't run red lights, can't drive on the sidewalk, can't run people over.
Yeah.
You only kill people if you have to. Like as long as the game, physically requires you to do it. But yeah, I mean, basically, like, yeah, you have to play GTA as just a normal guy.
Yep.
And follow all the letters of the law, and
That's pretty.
I mean, it's kind of a fun challenge to do. Most people break down in about 10 seconds because it sucks a lot of the fun out of GTA in a way, but at the same
Yeah.
time, like, there's a lot of people who find enjoyment in it because it adds a whole other challenge and difficulty level
Yeah.
that doesn't exist in the game.
I'm surprised that GTA's never pushed that boundary of like, oh, you run a red light and a cop is near you and you set off a star or something.
I mean, I think that definitely comes down to a gameplay thing. Like, I can't. It's annoying enough when you have like one star on you and you're like a mile away and the cops still can't see you, but you still have to sit there for like 2 minutes while they can't find you or whatever.
Yeah.
If that happened every time you ran a red light, I can't even imagine how
That-
tedious that would be.
That's when they added in Lester, right? Where you could call Lester and just get that cop star off you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just saying, like think about how big Los Santos is in Grand Theft Auto 5. I've definitely done it where I play as, a law-abiding citizen, as you will, whether I was playing as a cop or as I was playing as what we would call civs, and trying to navigate through the city, following the rules of the road, freaking sucks sometimes. You'll sit at a traffic light forever waiting for it to turn.
Because the game's not built correctly with all the stoplights and stuff.
Yeah, it's not appropriately set for all that stuff. It's just completely random, and I mean, again,
so you'll find that light that never changes.
Well, I mean, no, it'll still change, but it might change for like a second. It'll let like two cars out, and then there's also the amount of cars that pop in and out.
Yeah.
In frame or even just outer frame because it's loading in traffic.
So
like it plays into all those factors, and it's really tedious. It's really hard.
It is. And when I was doing it with a community, it was fun because if you're the cop, you're looking for that person that's going to run that light, so you can go, have the interaction with them. Or if you're the civ, you might try and push that limit of running that red light and hoping that there's not a cop there. So it brought the element of like
punishment.
Yeah, like it just there you wanted to kind of follow the rules of the road, if you will, there. But just playing regular Grand Theft Auto on single player, going through the missions with Franklin or something. Like I would not want to have to stop at every red light so that way I didn't have the cops
Yeah.
chase me. Like you're playing the game in two different styles. One, I would want to do it. The other, I absolutely would not want to do it. It would really draw out the game, in my opinion.
I'm
Yeah.
surprised Grand Theft Auto has not implemented a mod system similar to like what like Skyrim and Fallout did with that mod page.
For
That would have been
whatever
for Grand Theft Auto 5.
for whatever reason, Rockstar is hell bent on eliminating mods from Grand Theft Auto 5 to an
Well,
annoyance level.
to I get it to a certain point. Like, I get why they don't want multiplayer mods. Like that makes sense to me because they
Right.
don't want people cheating
Right.
and gaming the system and yada yada yada. That I get. But like the single player mods, like I don't see why they give a shit. Like like
So,
who cares if I load up the Iron Man mods so I can
yeah.
fucking fly around like an asshole and shoot people with lasers. Like I don't see why they should care about that.
So,
But they do. Like
I
I know people who got banned for having single player mods in GTA 5. It's
yeah,
just like why?
it's insane. I completely understand not wanting it in their multiplayer servers that they own because yeah, it brings an unfair element to the other people inside that server, and it's not fun at
Yeah.
that point.
And
Um,
that's their cash cow.
but like
Well,
you're
there's
saying
that
with
too.
the single player and even 5M, which is completely separate from Rockstar servers, I don't understand why they're so hell bent on getting rid of those because those things have actually made Rockstar a shit ton of money. I, for one, and I know a bunch of people that have literally bought Rockstar or bought Grand Theft Auto 5 on PC solely to play LSPDFR or 5M. So they've made hand over fist of money from these people just purchasing this game on PC to play
To
it.
do the mods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My sole purpose for buying the game was to do that. I had no interest in playing the story at that point. I had already played it. I'd already beaten it a few times. I wanted to
It
do the
is. It's
mods.
crazy. That is crazy because if you think, okay, look at games that have like server support where you can like rent a server and you pay like what an actual monthly fee to them,
Right.
like things like Battlefield, Minecraft, and I'm surprised they don't invest in a server system where, hey, you can rent out a server and throw your mods in it for your community to play or your friends, or you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
I'm surprised they.
I don't know what their hang up is with even doing, something like that. Unless they're just trying to keep it uniform as no mods on that game.
I mean, that might be it. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not a game developer. Maybe it is just easier to say, like, we detect any modifications to the game code that are not supposed to be there, then we can ban you. Maybe that is a million times easier, and that's just the way they've chosen to do it.
Right.
If so, it sucks, but I would kind of understand that. Um, but again, I don't know if that's true or not. That's
Yeah.
pure speculation on my part.
I mean, I could understand that thought process to a point, but the fact that this mod community is probably one of the biggest, like I,
Oh, it's
I'm
hands down the biggest
surprised.
mod community out there. 5M is
Yeah,
massive.
I'm surprised that they fight that.
I, I think it's just, and this is my pure speculation. I think they're just kind of I think it's blanket punishment for the people that mod the actual Rockstar owned GTA 5 online servers. And so, because they're constantly pushing updates to break these mods, and I think that 5M and LSPDFR just happen to fall in that category because they're changing a little bit of the code of the game to break those mods so they can't be used inside of GTA Online.
Yeah.
And I think it's just blanket punishment. Those two realms of modding are just stuck in the middle of it.
It's true. And I mean, part of it too might honestly be that the game is just not quite built for that. Because I mean, a lot of MMOs now, I mean, they aren't modded servers, but there's like official like role-playing servers where like if you get on it, you have to, play a certain role. Like you are that character when you sign on.
Right.
Kind of like what you were talking about, Tim. Like, you sign on and you are a cop and you have to,
Yep.
call out the codes and all that jazz.
Yep.
Um, And so like, but those servers are like marked out and people know that they're hopping onto those servers. And because the way GTA works is like, I mean, you can join people's private servers, but like the public ones are always just, you know, completely random and you never join with like it's unless you set it up to specifically join like a solo one or whatever, like you just join a random group of people
Yeah.
and, flying around in jets and shit and whatever.
Yeah.
Tim, you said okay, so you said does this go for the cop mods? Do you know how you said that they have to keep updating the mods because they keep Rockstar pushes out updates to stop them? Does that go for those as well?
Yep. So like they're called scripts, and so like the it doesn't necessarily affect the vehicles very much because it's kind of like just reskinning the vehicles, but you have like scripts for like different like call outs that you would do, or even like the base mod of LSPDFR. When Rockstar pushes an update for Grand Theft Auto 5, you have to go to one of these sites that has these mods, and you have to re-download all these mods and put them back into your Grand Theft Auto folder to keep that game up to date so you can play it. One workaround that a lot of guys have done is they will turn off automatic updating on Steam, and they'll just play it that way, and they won't ever update their game. They won't ever have to update their mods, and they can just play their game, play LSPDFR without any interruptions.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. These mods aren't, when they push these updates, it's never so bad that it like completely breaks it where like nobody can ever figure it out. It usually takes maybe a day or two for these mod creators to figure out, what has changed, that they need to change their coding so that way it is compatible with the current game version.
Yeah.
Yep. I highly suggest that you guys look at YouTube videos of this stuff because like when I first started it out, it was kind of basic. The only things that like they had for like let's say 5M is you could change what kind of vehicles you're in. Like the moderator of the server or the developer of the server could put in like different vehicles. So you'd have like Explorers, Tahoes, Crown Vics, Tauruses, things like that, and they would have different skins on them. And they could, make those skins reflect like if you're up in Sandy Shores, it'd be Blaine County Sheriff's Office. If you were down in Los Santos, it'd be either Los Santos County Sheriff's Office or Los Santos Police Department. But now these modders have gone so far that they have added in like different scenery into the game. They've added in interiors into the game that were never there in the base game.
Cars?
No, like buildings. Like there's buildings that you can go into in LSPDFR and in 5M if you have the right mod for it. That you can go into.
That's sick.
That was never an interior inside the base game of Grand Theft Auto.
Oh, that's neat. So they added to the immersion for the that mod experience. So that's cool.
And so this is where like my skepticism of, again, this is kind of getting a little off topic, but my skepticism of the anti-cheat for Call of Duty has come from because I've seen what these modders can do with Grand Theft Auto 5. So these other people that do it in, other capacities in other games, there's no limit to what they can do. Because I've seen what they can do in Grand Theft Auto 5, which means they can translate that to anything else.
Yeah, if they damn, that is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way it's always been. Is like these cheaters and hackers and stuff really want to cheat for whatever reason. Don't know what that is, but whatever. Like they always will just find a way. Yeah. And I mean, to them, to a certain point, I think it's a bit of a challenge just to prove like, well, it doesn't matter how many anti-cheats you put out, we can still get around it. Like it's.
Yep.
It's a crude bird. I mean, I've seen a few harsh people on the internet who admit to modding and stuff like that, and they are like that PC master race. Like they're like the absolute utter depiction of a dick, and it's like, I mean, I guess those are the people who just, I guess that God complex, like I just want to cheat, I can do anything I want type shit.
Yeah. So I love that we spent so much time talking about LSPDFR and 5, and we haven't even really talked about Grand Theft Auto 5 in a
Well,
sense.
I mean, I would wager everyone knows what it is by now.
Yeah. So we've kind of
Everybody and their
The
mom has
cash
played
cow
Grand
that
Theft
is like Shamrock Farms.
Um,
Everybody knows Shamrock Farms.
so the little Easter egg that I was kind of hinting at earlier is, and I've only recently saw this on the internet, so I don't know if this is like a newer update that Rockstar's put into the game. If you go on top of one of the mountains in Grand Theft Auto in San Andreas, you can, and you take a shovel with you, you can dig up in this specific area, and it digs up the grave of CJ, and it says like there's like a tombstone.
What?
Yeah, there's like a tombstone for CJ and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty trippy.
And this is something
I don't.
that just was recently discovered.
I don't know, because this also could just be a mod. I just happened to see it while scrolling on Facebook, but I wouldn't put it past Rockstar to throw in a little Easter egg like that to reference back to San Andreas.
Oh, that's cool.
They do love those.
Yeah.
Well, because of what they had the alien Easter eggs in 5,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Under Mount Chile, there's that symbol on the side of the mountain.
Was there a Bigfoot one, or was that Red Dead Redemption?
I think that was.
Well, it was rumored for a long time that there was a Bigfoot that existed in San Andreas, like original GTA San Andreas, in the woods around San Fierro. And then it became such a big deal that they eventually put it in as a gag in Red Dead Redemption. And then it gets referenced in there, and then I think they make, it's been forever since I played through GTA 5's story, but like I think they make a joke about it in there too, about there possibly being Bigfoot. I mean, but there is also that entire mission where you get that series of missions, even, because I think you do it once with each of the 3 main characters, where you just get crazy high on like some hallucinogenic drug, and then you shoot all the crazy stuff, like
those
all
you're
the
like
aliens
in that.
come out at you, and yeah, GTA 5 definitely went overboard with some of that stuff. I mean, it was cool and it was different. Like, it definitely threw a curveball at you when you were playing the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, GTA 5. I think GTA 5, honestly, as much as we kind of take it for granted now, had a really good story. That just with the 3 protagonists. Well, I mean, main characters. Protagonist might not be the right word, but the 3 main characters, being able to switch between them and having this, big cohesive story about, I mean, this is also what they added in, like, real heisting into the game and making that a big deal, because those heist missions were huge, and it really felt like they upped the crime aspect to a point, like making these guys feel like they were criminals.
Yeah,
I mean, not to poop on the other ones, but a lot of them felt a bit more like cartoony, kind of over the top. Whereas this one, it's like, and I mean, like, yeah, you were murdering people, but like you were doing that in every GTA, and I mean, for God's sakes, GTA basically treats it as a joke.
yeah.
The amount of people that you can kill.
So with GTA
Wasn't it-
5, sorry, Josh.
No, you're good.
This is, in my opinion, this is when they really developed good backstories for their characters too. I mean, like CJ, they kind of had a little backstory for him. Nico, they kind of had a little backstory. This one, they actually kind of went, in my opinion, went more in depth with those backstories of the characters before, we meet them when we play the game.
Yeah. What was that DLC for Grand Theft Auto 4, the biker gang? What was that one called?
It's because they have them in Grand Theft Auto 5. It's the Lost.
Yes,
something.
when you're first introduced to Trevor, remember he kills that main character from that DLC.
Yeah.
like right off the bat.
Hold on, are you talking about
I,
Grand Theft Auto 4 or are you talking about in Grand Theft Auto 5 Trevor kills him?
well, yeah, it goes. That's so the biker gang
The
was
Lost.
introduced in that. Yes, they were
Lost in the Dam
introduced
is
in
the
the.
name of the
Yeah,
expansion.
they were.
Yep.
Yes, they were introduced in that DLC in 4, but you see them again the
In
first time
5.
you're introduced to Trevor, and he
I don't think it's.
kills that guy, right?
I don't
I don't think it's the first time, but you are correct that at a certain point, that main guy from that expansion shows up and Trevor just shoots
Because
him.
Trevor's clapping his girlfriend's cheeks, I
Oh
believe.
yes, I remember
Yeah,
that.
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah.
getting her hooked on drugs, and they're supposed to be clean.
Oh
Then he
man.
takes a problem with that, and so Trevor just murders him.
Yeah.
So backing up a little bit to Brendan, where
Yeah.
you were talking about the 3 protagonists. Back when Grand Theft Auto 5 was initially announced, and they were saying that they were gonna have 3 protagonists. Maybe I didn't look it up enough. My biggest fear with that, and I'm so glad they didn't do this, was they were going to have 3 protagonists, but they weren't going to have different stories and missions for each of them. That you would just get to pick one
Oh.
and play as that one, and then you could switch to another one, but you'd still be playing the same storyline. Whereas this one, like, you
Right.
had to go do shit for Trevor, or you had to go do stuff for Franklin.
They had the different unique
Yes.
story
Yeah, they
arc.
each kind of have their own unique storylines
So
and stuff.
I was really afraid that you were only going to get one storyline, and you just got to pick who you wanted to be for that time.
The
Well,
only person.
they were
Pardon
kind of
me?
unclear on that at the start, at least, and then I
Right.
think slowly, once it got closer and closer to the game, when they started showing more gameplay and stuff, uh, they showed like how that stuff might have mattered and sort of calm people's fears about it. But I don't think we still knew about the full scope of having those 3 protagonists,
Mm-hmm.
and how that was all going to play out until we actually like got our hands on it.
Right. And I'm so glad they
Yeah.
did it the way they did it because I think it worked out perfectly.
It did. The only see, okay, so the coolest thing about that with the addition of it was every time you'd switch to one of the characters, they were currently doing something in their day-to-day lives. The only damn person I kind of didn't look forward to switching to was fucking Trevor. Because sometimes you'd be out in the middle of nowhere naked and you'd have to run all the way back into
I
civilization.
want to say
It's
there would
true.
be
Yeah.
I want to say there'd be times like you would bounce to Trevor and all of a sudden you're running from the cops and you got 2 stars.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of different setups for everybody.
Yeah.
Trevor's definitely had the most out there for sure.
But I mean that's that's who Trevor was.
Oh yeah, it plays into their characters and stuff.
It
Like,
was it was hilarious. There was such hilarity, but that damn I swear I always got cursed with Trevor waking up drunk in the middle of the desert
I just
every
remember
yeah,
fucking time.
I remember it was shortly after Grand Theft Auto 5 was released and memes were starting to kind of blow up and it'd be like I remember seeing memes like, "Oh, but we've got Trevor." And it's, a picture of Trevor, crazy hair and bloodshot eyes and stuff and the memes around Trevor were so funny back then.
It made that actor's career though.
Yeah.
yeah,
It
he's gotten work since then because of it.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
yeah, yeah. It made he made his damn career for sure.
Was there anybody famous that you guys can think of in Grand Theft Auto 5?
Uh,
I mean, Laszlo because he's been mentioned throughout, the series, but I can't really think of anybody outside of that.
I don't think so.
I'm sure there was. I just can't think of him off the top of my head.
Right, and that game's so massive that I don't want to go through a list of,
I mean, yeah,
cast
it's
because
a massive game,
it is.
and I mean, let alone that there's, especially by the time Grand Theft Auto 5 came out, like the series was so huge that they can literally just drop people in there for like a 3-minute cameo or some shit. Like
Yeah.
they could be there for like one character as like a side character that actually serves like
Well, I mean,
one
What it
mission
was
of
the
purpose.
it was the most recent DLC that they just came out with Grand Theft Auto Online that they added in Dr. Dre.
yes, with
Well, yeah, because
the new Franklin DLC,
Yeah.
he was writing music for the game or writing some new tracks for the game.
which the DLC that they just came out, or I guess we really can't say just came out. The DLC that they come out with for Franklin,
It did actually just recently come out. You're not
It's,
far off
it's
from that.
it was December,
yeah, December.
November.
Remember, Josh, we're in June right now. Hint, hint. No,
Time.
but no. Anyways, when
Oh
that
god.
DLC came out, it was like the first story-based or storyline DLC that they've come out with since they released the game 9 years ago,
Uh,
right? Because there's nothing that hasn't been tied to the story.
well, I
No,
mean that's
because
still in
that's
GTA Online. Like that
It is,
Franklin
but
DLC is still GTA Online stuff.
have they
it
added?
was the first time that they tied in some. Maybe I don't remember. I guess I mean, but
Yeah.
I think it was the first time that they showed because it takes place quite a few years after the events of the story because I believe that like now Franklin has done something with his life.
Yeah.
He's married to that girlfriend of his because apparently now with this new update, if you go to Franklin's house, that girlfriend of his that he was like off and on with
Mm-hmm.
lives there with him. Her car is in the driveway with his.
Okay.
So
So,
Yeah.
apparently he's either married or I don't know.
um,
It's. I mean, it's probably the first time they. I mean, aside from. I mean, a lot of the side characters end up showing up in GTA Online, but it's definitely the first time, like, again, one of the main characters that you got to play as in the, main GTA 5 story, single player, shows up in the multiplayer in some capacity.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is the because I mean they had like at launch they had the ones with Lamar, right?
Well, yeah, he's the
Where
one who
he
like introduces you
introduces
basically
you.
to the world. Well, what's so weird is that supposedly that like your character joining GTA Online or whatever and arriving is supposed to be set like before the events of GTA 5,
Oh no,
like
really?
before the
what? No
story.
shit.
If I remember right, I believe so. And then this new thing is like, oh, well, now it's after that. And I'm like, well, when did we do the time jump? Like, when did that happen?
Well, I think the time jump happened after they finally built the casino, which changed GTA Online
Well, they added
a
in
I
lot.
mean,
the heists into online also,
Oh yeah,
which
yeah,
would
yeah,
be
yeah,
consistent with the storyline of Grand Theft Auto 5.
yeah.
So I wonder if
it,
that was
Maybe when.
I mean, I don't know. It's not like it doesn't matter that much.
right.
It's not like anybody's really playing it for the story. I mean, for God's sake, they added hover cars and shit. Like, it's,
The flying bikes with the missiles on it, the endless amount of missiles.
I mean, yeah, it kind of doesn't matter. I don't think anyone particularly cares, but
No.
I
I
just
have
thought
a
that was
I
funny.
have a friend, I'm not going to name names, but has put in a lot of money in GTA Online.
I mean, it's basically the only way to play now.
Yeah. A
Yeah.
pay to win. So,
I mean, it works.
yeah.
It works for them apparently.
It works. That's why we haven't gotten a sequel to the damn Grand Theft
Okay.
Auto franchise.
So,
There's supposedly some more recent news that has come out about why that hasn't happened quite yet, but
Oh, we
um,
have to get to that.
well, that's what I was
yeah.
just going to bring up. My next point is Grand Theft Auto 6.
Well,
Is
I
it
mean, then in that case,
wait,
supposedly,
what's Grand Theft Auto 6? What? That's a thing?
Right.
supposedly, it's been a long time coming because I mean, one, they've had a lot of changes at Rockstar. Like the two guys who basically founded Rockstar, the Hauser brothers, have both left now. They don't,
Oh, what?
they retired.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and so they've had some change ups. Rockstar has multiple studios now. With Rockstar North, Rockstar San Diego, and I think they have one or two other smaller ones that are like support type studios.
Yeah.
Um, Supposedly they've tried to get GTA 6 off the ground a couple of times, but they haven't really figured out what they want it to be yet. Um, and also with the changes and stuff in leadership, they've changed the idea of what GTA 6 should be. Um, at least that's partially it. I mean, I will also fully attest that probably Grand Theft Auto Online is also holding that back because as soon as they release a new GTA, like they have to shut down, well, not shut it down, but they're gonna have to start over from scratch with a new GTA Online.
Yeah, that massive source of income will have to be sacrificed.
Right. So, with that, then, Brendan, what would be your hopes or your speculations or things that you would like to see in Grand Theft Auto 6?
Uh, Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I know what the rumors and the speculation are right now. There is heavy speculation that it is going to be um, supposedly they're going to go back to the 80s and do Vice City again.
I've
Yeah,
heard
that's what I
that
was
one.
mentioning earlier.
Part of that is popular demand. Part of that is also because of uh, the closest anyone equated it to would be the Netflix show Narcos. It's going to be about,
Oh,
I mean, Miami, slash Vice City in the Grand Theft Auto universe, is a heavy drug running city, especially in the 80s and 90s. So supposedly it's going to span multiple areas. Um, so like you'll have Vice City, and then you'll have a fictional like Colombian South American style city, and possibly a
Okay.
third one somewhere as like a stopover.
Yeah.
And that you're supposed to be this drug runner guy, um, to I mean, yeah, run all these drugs and become a kingpin again in
Yeah.
Vice City and these other areas. Um,
everybody's been wanting multiple maps, though, right? So that makes sense.
So, like, my hopes for it, and I've seen speculation on this as well, which I don't know that it holds any water, is I'd love to see a map that encompasses all the cities that they've talked about so far. And I
well,
don't
Like bringing all
that's
the old ones,
like Las Venturas, San Andreas,
yeah,
San Fierro, North Yankton, Liberty City, Vice City, all those. Bring all those into one massive map.
they
I
could
don't.
do it.
Is it really doable right now at this point in time, or do we need to wait for the next generation of consoles?
I mean, it's probably doable, but I mean, again, I don't know. I wouldn't want them to do that unless there was a reason to do it. Like, I don't want them to come up with that and then just have to shoehorn in some bullshit story or whatever, so that I have to jump back and forth between all these places.
Right. Which
And I mean,
Yeah.
the traveling
What
could be
about
a pain in the
DLC
ass.
oriented? What if it was like, it gave us what you just mentioned earlier, but they finally did some, campaign DLC and gave us map additions, so, Brandon, like what Tim was mentioning.
I don't know. Part of it, I think part of the way GTA works is picking that city and making that city a character of the game in its own right. And if you're bouncing around a lot, you're not going to be able to do that anywhere near as well.
Right.
Um,
You're not gonna be able to learn the
because I
cities
mean,
like we have with the other ones.
yeah, and I mean, even to a point like, we talked a lot about San Andreas. Like, I still love that game. Um, but the vast majority of that game takes place in Los Santos.
Yes.
Like San Fierro and Las Venturas are completely secondary and way smaller and don't have anywhere near as much detail, or uh, definitely don't feel like they have anywhere near as much effort as Los Santos does. Um,
Yeah.
And they don't feel like those cities. You only know they're those cities because of the points of interest for them. Like
yeah,
you wouldn't know Las Venturas is Vegas unless you were actually driving down the strip and then you see, okay, yep, these are all the casinos for Las Vegas. Otherwise, it doesn't feel like Las Ventura. It doesn't feel like Las Vegas. And same for San Fierro. You don't know it's San Francisco until you get to those rolling hills that are in the middle of the city with the trolley going up them.
I
yeah.
mean, even Nevada, like, even that could be a whole game.
I mean, if they
Las
went
Vegas
back
and stuff.
and if they fleshed out like Las Venturas or even San Fierro, I'd be totally cool with that. Like if they, you know,
See, I think
made that the next game.
I like the idea of one of those two cities, but I think I like the idea more of going back to Vice City. I heard that speculation a while ago, and it didn't sit well with me in the beginning. But then I got to thinking about, it, I was like, you know what? Times have changed. They could do so much more to that city now, and really just make it massive and make it really feel even more like Florida than it already did.
Well, yeah, see, that's the thing is like, I mean, I guess what I would like to see more out
Yeah,
of
what would you like to see?
these a sequel, I guess you could say, is the rags to riches. Like, I want to purchase properties, like, right? I want to, like, have that opportunity. I mean, like, yeah, GTA Online has that now, but it's like, only to an extent. But I feel like that's the one thing I've been itching for since San Andreas,
So
right?
you'd like them to
Is
bring that feature back in.
yes, I would like
I,
the feature to be like to feel like I'm rich, right, in the
I
game
agree
and
with
to
that.
like make those big purchases and
Right.
Well, that was, I mean, that's something they had kind of planned on doing in GTA 5, but then it kind of fell apart because GTA Online. Um,
The cash cow.
but I mean,
cash
I,
cow.
I can't knock them for it. Like
No.
it's working for them, and people keep giving them money. So like
Yeah.
Okay,
that's,
so the next Grand
but
Theft Auto. Go ahead,
like
Brenden.
yeah, I my only concern about them going back to Vice City is if they don't do, they have to go back to the 80s again. Like they have to. Like without, if it's Miami outside of the 80s, it's pointless. I mean, you could kind of go into the early 90s to be fair, but if you go like past that, like if they just did it like now in the modern day, like
It's nothing.
it's not Vice City, it's not Miami in the 80s,
Right.
it's not relevant.
Right.
Yeah, they
And
need the Hawaiian shirts and the slacks and
like they just need to go back. I mean, if they are going back to Vice City, I think you have to go back into that time period, and I think they can do that,
I
and I
think
think they can
so.
do it right and do it well.
And they're gonna have more
But like
resources
it's,
to do it now too.
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, because they got show Narcos, or movie is a show movie. I don't know.
Show.
It's. I mean, that's a perfect way to. I mean, give us story.
I mean, and that seems to be again what the rumors are saying is that that's supposedly what GTA 6 has drawn heavy inspiration from is Narcos in particular.
Yeah.
Um, that whole drug culture that existed basically, um, or drug running culture, I guess I should say,
yeah.
from that time period. Um, and those guys being like basically kings of the world and you know lording it over everybody and just being borderline untouchable.
Right.
Yeah. Would they?
So
You think? Do you think they would mess with the three different character thing again, or you
that's what I was
think they
about to
would?
ask is would you want to see another three protagonists? Would you like to see two? Would you like to go back to one? What do you guys think?
Uh, I mean, I'm good either way. It's if so, they just need to be careful of it. Um, like it needs to work kind of in the way that GTA 5 did. Like I don't want them to just feel like they need to put in three protagonists so that we have three protagonists again.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
I've.
if they do it, they each need to be like, fleshed out and serve a purpose to the story and so on and so forth.
I
Honestly,
absolutely agree.
if they wanted to do something really kind of crazy, I mean, it's GTA, so I don't know if they would actually do it. They would either do customizable character for the first time in GTA,
Oh my God!
Ooh.
Could you imagine?
or they should go in a different direction and try and do like the first female protagonist in GTA and have that
Yeah.
be a thing.
That would be
I
cool too.
I'd be more comfortable with that only because like what I was you know I don't think they should go for the three character thing again because I feel like that can
I
pull
think
away
it
from
was
all the I feel like it could pull away from the content that we want in the campaign. I feel like how I mentioned the big spending getting different properties. I feel like if they had that if they try to go for that bigger scope of the three different characters, I feel like that could pull content away from us.
right. So I think that like the nostalgia of Grand Theft Auto 5 is a three protagonist, and I kind of want that to stay its own special thing. I kind of like more the idea of going back to one protagonist for the
Yeah,
next game.
same. I'm with that.
I do really like the idea of a female protagonist. I think that they could really do a lot with that. The customizable would be cool too. I would also like to see wherever they decide to go, I'd like to see more callbacks to one of their previous titles that might be in that location.
I think part of that's just going to depend on where it is,
Right.
um, and like
You
how
know,
it and when it is, even if
Yeah.
they change time periods. Uh,
was correct. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but So, is the reason why they don't do such of a stern callback is because these are more soft reboots compared to direct like connections?
No, I mean they always existed in the same universe. I mean,
Mhm.
literally, Laszlo is in every GTA.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, except for one and two.
yeah.
I think one of the reasons, like, so let's compare San Andreas to 5, is it's two different time periods. You've got, the 90s, and then you've got what was supposed to be modern day today.
Which was
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
came out
So
in 2013. So there's like
yeah,
a 20-year gap there.
so trying to like give callbacks to CJ and what that game was, I don't know that how it would have worked for then.
Well, especially because San Andreas was about 90s gangland culture,
Yeah,
which was very prevalent at the time. Um, and it's still a thing now, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was then. Like,
right.
you can walk around and you still see. I mean, you even do a couple missions where you have to go kill some ballers, and I mean, yeah, even in Franklin is part of Grove Street. Um, but like, it's a much more reduced uh thing now, so it's not. But I mean, at the same time, GTA 5 also has the callbacks to Lost in the Damned, and
Yeah,
even GTA Online has the callback to the Ballad of Gay Tony from GTA 4.
right.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they could have had Franklin be CJ's son.
I mean, yeah.
What would that have done?
I
It,
don't
Like,
know. I mean,
all it would
like
have
it would
done
have
it
been
was
neat,
add.
sure,
It would have added
but
to the backstory of Franklin. Is all it would have done.
but but not really. Like, if he's a son, what does that change? Like,
Nothing.
exactly.
nothing.
So then
It's
what's the
it's
point?
just a callback thing. It's a callback.
So like
Yeah, but if you're gonna call it back, it should mean something.
a type of callback that I would really like to see, and I don't know that they would ever do something like this, is all right. Let's say hypothetically we go back to Vice City. Somehow they incorporate bringing in Tommy Vercetti, whether it's for a mission or
Wait,
two or an interaction. Bring him in just a little bit. I would love to see
did
something like that.
didn't they bring in the main character from GTA 3 into San Andreas and you do a mission where you meet him and
Yes.
it was the
Claude?
prequel to him going
Yeah.
and starting the story in GTA 3, right?
Correct.
I don't
You
remember
run
that.
into You do. You run into him and his girlfriend in, I think it's in San Fierro during the racing scene. Um, like
Oh
it starts doing the
yes,
races,
I
and you
remember
run into
that.
Claude and his girlfriend, and you beat them in the race, and then
Then he goes
they
off
get
to.
pissed off and leave, and that's supposedly. I mean, I wouldn't say it's the exact setup, but like it sort of leads them down the path that gets them out of San Andreas.
So is that
Um,
more
That
fan
w-
fiction or is that like what Rockstar
no, that,
actually in?
that happened. Like
yeah,
that,
it
like
No, no,
actually I think
I
there's
know
that's
an
the
that.
biggest
actual.
callback.
I know that scene happened, but is it fan fiction that is Claude, or is that like what Rockstar intended? That was Claude? That was the start of Grand Theft Auto 3 for him.
It was intended because it's absolutely Claude, and it's absolutely the
His
I
girlfriend.
forget what his girlfriend's name is off the top of my head, but like it's absolutely his girlfriend.
Okay,
They act the same. Uh, I mean, Claude doesn't have the same voice actor because again, he doesn't talk. Um,
Yeah.
so he does have
but
the
it's the
same voice
same.
actor.
Well, yeah. Uh, but it's the same voice actor who plays his girlfriend, and she acts the same, looks the same. Um, and she even dresses the same, or at least
And he dresses
similarly.
the same, right?
Yeah,
He had
because he
his
has
Yeah,
green
the. Yeah.
khakis on, or
yeah, the like green cargo pants and like a
Yep.
black
yeah.
jacket.
Yep.
Um, yeah, like it's definitely them. Like it's 100%. That was probably the first. I mean, outside of Laszlo, that was probably the first uh
Callback.
overall connection between these Grand Theft Autos.
Yeah,
So going back to 6, I would just love to see another big callback like that.
that
With
would be
this new
cool as
one
hell.
coming in, or whenever we finally get a Grand Theft Auto 6.
Well, so about that, buried deep in a recent earnings report. I think it was an earnings report for Take-Two Interactive, who owns 2K Games and Rockstar Games, and
Right.
obviously Rockstar makes Grand Theft Auto. Um, in 2024, or might have been 2025, they were predicting a huge increase in profit, uh, which, I mean, it's a bit of a
That's
jump,
that's a
but it's
long
not
time
like the
away.
craziest jump in logic. That they're predicting that huge leap in revenue because a big tentpole franchise is coming out. So the only thing that could really, as much as they predicted that that leap would be, the only thing that could be would probably be Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
That's out of the ordinary, I guess, because
Damn, that's
they
far
release an
too.
NBA every year and stuff like that. So it's not that. Like that's
Yeah,
already factored in. Like they're talking like a huge,
Triple
huge
A.
percentage increase um, of profits in that year, and it's something that is not normally released,
Hmm.
and something that would be a big deal. So
So it'd have to be Grand Theft
digging
Auto
deep in
6.
between the
With
lines, yeah, digging deep in
with
between the lines, it's possibly that's Grand Theft Auto 6 is what they're aiming
Okay.
for.
with the change in leadership throughout Rockstar, what do you think this title could flop?
I mean,
6?
I don't
No.
think it'll flop. I don't think it will flop. Maybe will it not be as good, or maybe it'll be something different? Possibly.
Yeah,
It's entirely possible. And I mean, again, supposedly that might be part of the reason why this has taken so long.
yeah.
Um, because as of now, like this will be the longest gap between GTA games ever.
Yeah.
Because GTA 3 was 2001, and then we got Vice City in 2003. San Andreas was 2004. Um, and then 4 was in 2008, and we got 5 in 2013.
Yep.
Um, so at this point, we're going on
Almost 10
nine
years.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, nine
Like
years
what?
currently, but
How long was the gap before 5 made it to its next gen version on Xbox One?
It wasn't super
uh,
long. It was only a couple years, wasn't it?
I think it was like 2015 is when we got that version, because that's also when they released the PC version.
Yep.
I think that was 2015.
And now
Uh,
we're getting the next gen version again.
Yeah.
yeah.
So I don't. I'd love to see a Grand Theft Auto 6 in my lifetime.
I mean,
I would too, for the love of
it's going to
God.
happen. Like
It
it is
is.
going to happen. Like, it's just a matter of
We'll
when and what.
we'll be in our 40s by the time we play the
Yeah.
sequel, guys.
Yeah. No kidding. So going back to your question though, Josh, with could Grand Theft Auto 6 flop unless they do some major changes to that title? It's going to be well received like every other one.
Like this the only reason why I asked that was when Brenden made the mention of like the change in leadership and how like their idea of the game keeps changing. They keep trying to get it off the ground.
Right.
Like there's games that have flopped because of that.
I mean, if they try
And
to,
it's true.
yeah, and you're not wrong. If they try to take like a Saints Row approach where they're going to space now, and that's never been a Grand Theft Auto, story, I could see it being, it could flopping or not being well received.
I mean, because that's what happened with Mass Effect Andromeda, right?
Well, Mass Effect Andromeda suffered
Not
a lot.
entirely, but it's because it almost loses its identity.
I mean, again, it might be. Like I said, there's been a lot of change ups at Rockstar.
Yeah.
And especially after Red Dead 2 was critically well received and mostly received pretty positively by by people who played it. But it definitely had its share of problems, and there's a lot of stuff about that game that people don't like, and there's a lot of stuff. I mean, we could get into it about what is wrong with that game.
Yeah.
Um,
That is actually, that is one title people wish the online treat would be treated just like as they are treating GTA
easy.
Online,
Yeah.
but unfortunately it's not.
It is
Well,
not currently. That is true.
they're doing what's making them money, and Grand Theft Auto's
Yeah,
making them money.
yeah. But like, so it's. I wouldn't say that it's not like Red Dead 2 was bad. I mean, it still sold like gangbusters. Um, but people definitely had some problems with that game. So I mean, after that too, they might have had to go back to the drawing board a little bit and change a few things up about GTA. Um, yeah,
The
I
It's
don't think it's
Online
gonna
had a
flop.
rocky launch, right?
Oh, GTA Online had a disastrous launch. It was a train wreck.
And then the same thing happened with Red Dead Online. It had
Uh,
it had a rocky-ish launch, I believe.
I don't think it was as bad, but it definitely had some problems. Um, but like I think that maybe has them some pause. And again, part of it is just GTA Online is printing the money, and it's probably a part of them is afraid they're gonna have to, destroy that to build the next GTA and GTA Online.
Yeah.
Um, it, but I mean, they're gonna do it at some point. Like they have to. Like they can't ride on this forever.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, they're gonna have
it's
to let it die and give us something new eventually.
Yeah. I mean, like, cause like a lot of video games nowadays, what are trying to go for that lengthy process
That
of like
tenure, yeah.
extending, yeah, the 10-year process, which GTA Online has done remarkably well with. But like, they're getting to that max point right now. I feel at least where it's like, okay, come on, guys.
well, I mean that's the same. It's what happened when they announced the PS5 and Xbox Series X versions. Is that like I think it was actually during one of PlayStation's like state of plays, like Sony's like direct to consumer like media events or whatever, where they announced their new games and what's coming soon and yada yada. And
Hmm.
they announced the GTA 5, new edition or whatever the hell you want to call it. Again, this version for PS5 and Series X and S.
Right.
And it and everybody was so upset that it was in there because like no one cared because like again, this was supposed to be a thing about like new stuff that's coming and big stuff that's coming for Sony and whatever, and they put this in there and everyone was just like, why? Like, not that
Why?
not having this is not cool, but at the
Yeah.
same time, like, did we really need a full-on announcement and a trailer for it? Like, it's like everybody kind of, it's like when they announce a new Madden every year. It's like, duh. Like, we don't
Yeah.
need a trailer. Like, we all know this is
When
happening. You
they did
don't
that
need to
event
show us.
only for Madden.
Oh, that was so dumb. That's
Yeah.
a whole other thing.
We didn't need news that they're remastering Grand
Yeah,
Theft Auto
you didn't
again
need
for
a
the second time.
yeah, didn't need a whole other announcement. Didn't need
Yeah.
a 5-minute time slot in a presentation about new stuff coming.
Right.
To
Yeah.
I mean, in that case, it was a Sony console event thing.
I could see
Um,
that working if they had had major single player DLC. Something massive that they were going to bring along with the Series X and or the Series and PS5 updates. Otherwise, yeah, it's
well,
just a simple remaster.
well, I mean, what killed those single player? Because GTA 5 was supposed to get single player DLC, just like GTA 4 did.
Right.
GTA 4 we got Lost in the Damned, we got Ballad of Gay Tony, which were awesome. Those add-ons were tremendous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, we were supposed to get stuff like that for GTA 5, but GTA Online became this behemoth, and then they looked at that and they're like, well, I guess we don't need to do those DLC things, and so they kind of retooled some of that stuff and put it into online, and
Yeah.
um, we got all the stuff that is in GTA Online now instead of getting those single player expansion DLCs we were supposed to get.
Right. So back to topic. Um, Grand Theft Auto 6. Anything else you guys would like to see or your hopes or wishes for it?
It's mainly it. Is my one of my favorite things was the property purchasing. I would hope to see that return in a
Yeah.
better form or fashion.
I definitely agree with that, Josh.
I mean, but on the topic of like the new stuff, before like I don't know if we're getting close to around wrapping up or anything, but that remaster trilogy, what is the state of that right now? Because I haven't heard anything ever since it got pulled off.
Uh, Still a dumpster fire.
Is it?
Slightly less of a dumpster fire. It's it's still so bad that if you bought it on PC, that they are giving you now a second free game. Uh,
What?
yeah. So when you bought it originally on PC, or at least if you bought it, it might not have, might only work through the Rockstar launcher. Like if you bought it directly through the Rockstar launcher, um, it when you if you bought it or pre-ordered it and got it, and didn't return it, they offered you, since it was such a bad launch, they offered you another game off of the Rockstar launcher, and then I think it was in December they basically just did the same thing again because the game is still in such a crappy state.
Oh
They
man.
have patched it and they have fixed some of the problems, so it is a better experience and it is more stable now, but it is still just a slightly smaller dumpster fire rolling downhill instead of a bigger dumpster fire rolling downhill. Like
Yeah, I
Man,
haven't picked it up since it launched.
it's still. I mean, again, it's playable and it functions, but it's still not what it should be,
that's
especially for a Rockstar launch. Like Rockstar, I mean, despite having some rockier problems at certain launch cycles and stuff, like they do
well,
turn it around and they do make those games, better and fix them. And this was not up to those standards in any way, shape, or form, and they still haven't fixed it. And it's been 3 months. I
we'll
mean,
have to
as of us recording this,
we'll have to
um,
revisit this in our botched launches episode because this would be a great
yeah,
one to
We
get into.
absolutely do. Yeah.
we
Um,
will.
but anyways, I think we should kind of wrap this one up.
Yep, I don't think we really got.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, hold on. I
Okay,
could
Oh,
tell, I could tell my one of my favorite stories.
do it.
Uh,
go for it.
so for anyone who doesn't know, for a certain period, I worked at GameStop as just an associate. And I worked during Grand Theft Auto 5's launch, and uh, we were required as GameStop employees to card everyone as GTA 5 came out because
Oh, no way.
we knew there was a nude scene in there. Like everybody knew about it. Even Rockstar said so. Like there is a nude scene in there. This game is F for mature. And so GameStop was like, you need to card everybody. Everybody who comes in, and you need to tell every parent who's buying it for their kids or whatever. You need to tell them about this stuff. Okay, no problem. So at one point, it was like a day or two after the game came out. This kid walks in with his dad, and is like, his dad's like, hey, we want to get GTA 5 for, pretty sure it was for the Xbox 360 at the time. It's like, we want to get, this for Xbox. I'm like, okay, sir, just so you're aware, there is a point in this game where there is, full on nudity, and I do mean that there is a part where you cannot skip it. You have to see it. It is in the game. There's nothing else you can do about it. And that doesn't even include all the other stuff like, the crazy amount of violence and swearing and yada yada. And his kid's like, I'm gonna go with like 13, probably around there, early teens. Uh, so the dad immediately turns and looks at his son, and it's like, I'm not buying you this game. And the kid just starts losing it, like it's slow, like it's a slow breakdown.
Yeah.
This is in the middle of the store. It's like, but dad, like all my friends are like, going to those classic excuses that we all have. Like, oh, dad, all my friends are going to be playing it. Like, you're going to leave me out. Like, I'm mature enough to handle it. It's no worse than this, that, or the other thing. And he would look at me. I'm like, sir, like, oh, I'll skip that one part. I'm like, sir, you cannot skip it. He has to do all of these things. All of these things are in the game. You can do it if you want to. Like, I'm not going to tell you no, but this is what's in the game. You need to make the best choice for you and your family. So this kid is just like basically begging his dad. And like I mean begging. Like he got on his knees
Holy
and was
cow.
begging. And so at this point he's in the middle of the store, like right in front of our cash register, and making a scene. So his dad picks him up, walks him out of the store, and they
Oh,
go have a discussion for like, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes or whatever. And come back in. And they come back in. This kid is literally in tears. And just was trying his hardest to get his dad to buy this game for him for whatever reason. And so the dad comes in, he's like, okay, we'd like to buy the game. I was like, sir, are you sure after everything that I've explained to you that you're okay with this? And you talked about it with your son. He's like, yes, we've decided so like literally this kid broke down. This is a teenage kid who probably has a certain concern about his image, as all teenagers do.
Right.
It breaks down in the middle of a store in tears because he can't play Grand Theft Auto 5.
That is hilarious.
And
good
oh my
God.
god, it's still one of my favorite stories just because it's like like I ruined this kid's day.
You did? He's like, just shut up.
Right?
Just shut up.
You can see it. Like he kept looking at me and like staring daggers at me, and I'm like, dude, this is my job. Like I have to tell him this.
Right.
He just
Oh man, that
broke
is
down
funny.
in tears in the middle of the store, crying and bawling his eyes out, like tugging on his dad's shirt like he was like a 6-year-old, even though he was like in his teens. Like, please, Dad, you need to let me play this game.
You said this was a couple months after launch?
No, this was like days. So like we had people coming. Again, this was in the middle of our store. There were other people in the store. Like he was not alone. Like there was other shoppers, and so other people are just standing around watching this, going like, "What the hell is happening?"
That is crazy. I mean, that's a hilarious story.
That is crazy.
I mean, it is part of talking about like what GTA is, and I mean, in a weird way, it's sort of a secular point of just like kids trying to play games that they're not supposed to, like what we did back in the day. Like, I know I wasn't supposed to be playing Grand Theft Auto. It didn't stop me, but
yeah, same.
But yeah, I don't know. Just one of my favorite little stories from when I worked at GameStop and about Grand Theft Auto. Even though it has absolutely nothing to do with inside of the game. It's just ruining this kid's life.
That is epic. Oh my god.
Oh man.
Thank God my parents weren't like that when I went to go. They took me to get the Grand Theft Auto game.
Yeah, my mom.
I think it was the third one back in the day.
Yeah, my mom didn't. She didn't care either, I don't think.
Yeah, my mom didn't care either. Okay, this is my thing. Is like, like I saw this video. I know we're ending up, but there's this video. This lady who apparently worked at GameStop too. It was on TikTok, and she's like. She literally, what you just described, Brenden, is what she had to do, is inform this mother that this game has nudity in it. And the mom's like, oh, can you skip over these scenes? And I don't think it was specifically GTA 5, but she's like, there's a possibility you can. And then the mom was like, okay, good, that's fine then. And then the lady was like, ma'am, I'm 37 years old. I will go find those scenes. And you really think your 13-year-old son won't go find those scenes?
Oh yeah, it was a whole. I mean, maybe it's a topic for another day, but it was a whole thing. I mean, we had to do it for several games that did stuff like that. But it's crazy what the parents will let their kids get away with because they either trust them or don't care or just don't know to care.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is insane. Maybe something we definitely can bring up down the road.
Maybe at some point, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think we're gonna wrap this one up.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you guys sticking it out with this. I hope you guys enjoyed it. You can subscribe, like, follow,
comment, please.
Comment.
Leave comment.
5 stars, thumbs up. We're also on Twitter at COG Podcast. We're also on Facebook, Citizens of Gaming Podcast. Anyways, we really appreciate you guys sticking around with us, and we will see you guys next time. Thanks.
Later, guys.
Thanks for listening.